We have Scott. Mackenzie's here, Sanders here, Kelly's here, DeVenter's here. So we have Jeff here. Okay, all right. So I need a motion for approval of agenda, or if there's any additions or deletions.
Moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all right. So we approve the agenda as it stands. Looking for an approval of minutes of the May 2nd meeting, 2024.
Moved.
Also. All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Minutes have been approved as they stand. Public comments? Okay, so we'll move right through that. All right, superintendent's report.
All right, as I assume all of you know at this point, both school district budgets passed on Tuesday. This is an enormous relief for all of us. Significantly higher turnout in both districts, 901 total votes at Green Mountain, 766 total in Ludlow Mount Holly, a significant increase over April 23rd. And given that Green Mountain is more than twice the size of Ludlow, that 766 total is a great turnout. For Green Mountain, it was 535 yes, 365 no, and 1 spoiled ballot. Somebody wrote something on the ballot. And they didn't say no. Ludlow Mount Holly, total of 468 yes to 298 no. Both Ludlow and Mount Holly towns passed the budget this time. If you had anybody out there who has one of the TRSU created Remember to Vote signs, please bring them to your nearest school, drop them off, because we will get stickers for the dates and use them again in future votes. And if you have one of those in your front yard and it suddenly disappears, it's probably a TRSU employee who drove by and picked it up so that they can all be returned. I want to thank everyone, our parents, our staff, our community members and our board members who all really work to get the vote out. I am much relieved to have it passed, but I'm equally pleased just with the number of people who turned up, which is where you want it to be. There are other places that have had their 4th votes now fail. So glad that's not us. The last day of school for all 4 elementary schools is next Thursday, June 13th. That's an early release day for students. The last day for the middle and high school is next Friday, June 14th, also an early release day. The reason they're different, the middle and high school missed an additional day as a result of a school power outage when there was stored damage to a utility pole on the property. Graduation at the high school will be in the evening, Friday, June 14th. We had our last during school time in service last week, Tuesday, May 28th. The end of the year teacher in service will be June 14th and 17th for elementary school teachers, and the 17th and 18th for middle and high school teachers. And the administrator goal setting workshops have been scheduled for July 29th to April 1st. I want to share with you when we talked at the TRSU,
Sorry, did you mean August?
July 29th through, did I say April?
Yes,
August.
okay, I just was.
Now, yes, we're going to go from July 29th until the following spring. No, July 29th through, it's Monday through Thursday that week. I'm sorry, August.
That's
1st.
okay, I just was like, well, maybe they're gonna do it in 2
Yeah, no.
John's,
Yeah.
whatever, okay, good.
When we were making adjustments to the budget, as you may recall, we talked about one of changing at Green Mountain. We had 5 special educators. We made the decision to change that one position to being a 0.5 special educator and 0.5 reading specialist, which reduced the budget because the 0.5 reading specialist is grant funded. And I wanted to share with you that the teacher who had been in that full-time special education teacher position, Mary V. Simone, has requested the transfer and has this special education background. So we have hired her for that position. So we wanted everybody to be aware of that. Let's see, the climate surveys are posted on the TRSU website. So those are the very pretty little colored pie charts for responses from both parents and staff members. The administrators have reviewed them and have discussed them with their staff, or are going to discuss them with their staff during the end of the year in service. As additional comparison between this year's, last year's, and the year before is done, you'll get more information about that, but they are available for everybody to go and look at. Let's see, and then the last thing I need to talk about with you here is, since our last meeting, the governor signed Senate Bill 55 that made some, this happened on last week on May 30th. And it makes some changes to the open meeting law, and then conveniently calls for those changes to be in place by July 1st. Which means we need to discuss them in our June meetings. And the changes aren't really about the open meeting law itself. There are two basic changes, and I shared this information in a very last minute way with all of our TRSU board members. And when we talk about it again at the Ludlow meeting and again at the Green Mountain meeting, we'll make sure that that also goes out to all of our board members. The big changes are in two places. In section 7 of the bill, which amends 1 VSA section 314 and adds this language. A municipality shall post on its website, if it maintains one, which we do, an explanation of the procedures for submitting notice of an open meeting law violation to the public body or the Attorney General, and a copy of the text of this section. So this is a requirement that on our website, we put information up for how to say, we think you violated the open meeting law, which of course we are happy to do. The VSA has conveniently created a model for that language, again, which I shared with all of you, that essentially goes through the steps for it, which are providing the school board with a written notice that alleges a violation. Upon receiving the notice, the board has 10 calendar days to respond, goes through that whole process. What I would like to hopefully hear from you today is that you are comfortable with our inserting into the blanks in that policy that I shared with you. And actually, as I'm talking about this, I could put that up so that people can look at it. If I could find it, I could put that up. So that other people could see it as well. There. That you are comfortable with our taking this, inserting the 3 school board names, TRSU, LMHUSD, GMUSD, into those blanks and posting this on our website. This is a procedure, it's not technically a policy. At the same time, at our next policy meeting, which will happen next Thursday, I will be suggesting that we create a brief policy that says that we will follow the recommended procedures. But I don't want to wait until it goes through the policy first read and second read, which would mean we'd be posting this somewhere around September or October. So as long as this board is comfortable with it, I will go through and make that happen so that you have that in place prior to July 1st.
Is there any discussion about that?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Need a motion for that?
That'd be great.
Go for it.
Is that you, Dave?
Scott.
Second.
There we go. Dave and Scott. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Putting the proposed.
Posting this language online.
Okay, posting the proposed language online. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Great, thank you. The other piece is the bill requires school boards to record their meeting in audio or video form and post a copy of the recording in a designated electronic location for a minimum of 30 days following the approval and posting of the official minutes. I don't need you to do anything with that. We do in fact record them. We have had them available. We have not posted them in a designated location. So we will do that. And I don't need your approval for that. I just will inform you that we will set up a folder on the TRSU website, and then we'll send notices out to people so that rather than the current practice is somebody wants to see it, they can see it on Okemo TV or SAPA TV, or if they write to us, we send them the link. Rather than doing that, we will just post it, and we will follow their procedures of doing it for 30 days. And then if we maintain them in perpetuity, we wind up overloading our accounts with it. So we will maintain them for that minimum period of time and then download them in a different form so that they remain available. We won't delete them, but we won't leave them forthcoming. So we have to post them in a designated location for a minimum of 30 days following the approval and posting of the official minutes.
So if we're now required to do that, and then we'd be maintaining basically a library of them, we still need to have SAPA or Gavel. Is there a cost to that's
They do that because it is good for the community to have that available.
okay, so all right, so okay.
We record them so that because if we were not doing a video recording, we would be required at this point by this to do an audio recording, which is what we used to do. Right? Remembering way back into the pre-COVID days, Amber would come to do minutes and somebody would put a audio recorder and record them so that we had something in place. We record them, and my understanding of the rules are that if you make a recording of this, you have to maintain it and keep it someplace. It has not been the rules that we were required to post, and that's the change.
All right.
Can you say that language again? You have to maintain the recording for 30 days after the official minutes are approved?
Following the approval and posting of the official minutes for a meeting.
Okay,
So once both of those things happen, once they are approved and posted, I know we post them before they are approved. We would wait to do this until the approval has happened, which would be the following month.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, there will be a lag. There is no lag from the wonderful people at Okemo who record it and then make it available to people, which is why nobody contacts us very often saying, can we have recordings, because it's available in other locations. All right, and then the last bit of news, I don't know whether you were going to mention this, but the governor in fact vetoed he did that yesterday or maybe this morning, but it just happened. He vetoed the big bill, which had the yield information in it. This is, as some people connected with the VSA has said, sort of uncharted waters, not quite sure what will happen, but there is a veto session scheduled for the legislature, and we'll see whether they have sufficient votes to override it.
Lauren, was that the 887?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, because I think I just read that was vetoed.
Yes, that's the number. Yeah, that just happened. Well, it was predicted. He had telegraphed to people already that he was not going to sign it, so it's not really a big surprise. Great, that's what I have for you. If there are other questions,
Questions for Lauren?
and then I will magically turn into the voice of your facilities director, who is not here tonight because he is at Scott Renfro's return. And his message is that he doesn't have anything that is necessary to share with you tonight. That there's always lots of things going on, but there is nothing urgent that has happened since the previous meeting.
Right, curriculum director?
So in previous times, we have brought out a report. This month, Julie has talked about what are students learning, how are students doing, and what are we doing to continue to improve teaching and learning. So this is the written report, and it is also linked to the SIP. So there's a math and a literacy component. If anyone has any questions. The other piece that I wanted to share is at the Ludlow, Mount Holly and GM board meetings, we'll be presenting on our definition of success for the board's goals for the year of what we are defining, how we're defining the definition of success across the system. So at the next two meetings, we'll be doing that for Ludlow, Mount Holly and Green Mountain. So if anyone has any questions about that, the other thing that I'm happy to report is that the state has approved our continuous improvement plan. Really great glowing feedback with some specific suggestions for strategies. So that's really exciting, and I thank everyone in the process for approving that. So I'm excited to announce that that's successful.
What were the suggestions?
Let's see, she suggested getting a student group involved, which I would in total support for more students involved, so student advisory. So I have a couple thoughts and ideas about that. Let's see. Oh, she specifically talked about looking at our safe and healthy schools goal and thinking about specific measures after the adoption of the social emotional screener, looking at measures of growth over the next year of how we would look at that. So what would we want to see in terms of percentiles of growth as outcome measures to better align with our equity one. We have that in math and in literacy, but that was another suggestion she had. Other than that, it was very good glowing feedback. So she's any other questions about the written report?
There's nothing else, we'll move on to financial.
We are rolling into the end of the year. This is a very busy time for us because we're trying to reconcile and close out and summer pay and transition to next year, which is a rollover process, and you have to reset everybody up and all the, you don't have to reset everybody up, but you have to change all the benefits into the new year with the new tax rates and stuff like that. So it's this kind of tedious work to like balance everything, right? So we're busy. You have May in the folder. Central office, budget, you know, we had the savings because we didn't do the curriculum director for the full year. But we also have some larger expenses such as the superintendent search, which was over $10,000. The training that Lauren did, that was administrative evaluation on that one. And then Clairville. But we still look good going into the end of the year with that. Transportation, Ludlow Mount Holly obviously doesn't have a second bus driver at Mount Holly, so they have a savings. And so we got the transportation aid really late, so we could collect some of the assessment. The supervisory union has, I don't want to call it a cash flow issue, but it's a concern the way we pay all the bills and then we ask for money. So we have the assessment set up on a monthly basis that it comes in. We try to maintain that. We have to ask for the reimbursements on grants and stuff like that. So it's a timing thing, keeping the cash flowing and rolling through. So as we have in our transportation, as we have a deficit, we ask for reimbursement on the money, and then we got the state aid, and so now we have credit there. So likely we will return all that money. We'll just wait till the end of the year and reconcile, and then we will refund the money to the district assessment on that. Special ed, right now we're looking good. This is when all the people that you didn't know about come out of the woodwork and say, oh, and they have a bill, or we had a student there that we weren't aware of. Special ed is so hard, just talking to Mary and like students coming and students going, and I think you got it down, and now the placements change, the person who was working with, so it's very challenging to try to forecast where we might end up. Looked at the tuition bills today, most of them still have May and June to come in. I think they'd be asking for that in advance as opposed to arrears, but they don't. I'm hopeful that we will come in where we need to. Any questions on the financials?
Yeah. With the bills, is there no, I mean, like, if you guys are getting surprise bills, is there no like deadline in submitting for reimbursement?
But you get within the district, yes. And we actually cut off spending if you're going to purchase something between now and the end of the year. With this year's budget, you have to buy by May.
Yeah,
Yeah, you put in a order for it. But you have all the services that come in. But, you know, just sometimes with special ed things happen, we don't necessarily know about, so we also, you know, as much as I try to stay on top of it, no one asks for my permission. You know, I try to, you know, if you got a bill, big bill coming in, if you have a big service that's happening, let me know, just so I can expect it. But then we have the people that are just trying to use up their budget. Which, you know, you have your changes all year. We're not gonna do a lot of purchases. And sometimes it's out of. So, working on that.
okay.
So, the other thing I wanted to share with you is the insurance for next year. I think I talked that it was gonna go up. It ended up going up 8.12% for the supervisory fee. So that's for everybody. It's about $25,000. Last year, we were at $308,740. This year, we're at $333,768. Some of that has to do with the flood insurance. I think they mentioned it probably to Green Mountain, not necessarily to Eldon Holly, but because part of Chester Edover sits in a flood. I'm gonna say this wrong, but is it a plain or a zone or whatever? Like now we have to have a specific flood insurance on them. And we always had flood coverage, but now we have to have it through the national flood insurance. So they accidentally sent me the bill, probably on purpose to see if I would pay it. But that alone is adding like $11,000 to that premium. But the part of it's for the White House that we will be getting rid of, but when I talk in, you know, until it's off the property, we want to make sure that we maintain it. So we don't have any liability issues with that.
If somebody were to hurt themselves against the building before it is removed, we don't want to be in the position that we've removed the coverage for it. And Cheryl will check, and once it is removed, we ought to be able to get refunded for
Yeah.
anything that we paid.
And we're trying to get that. It's just such a slow process to try to get it off the property.
Scott?
I couldn't hear you very well, Cheryl. Was it just the white building you were saying at Chester Andover?
The school, part of the school is in that
Flood zone?
as well, yeah. Even though the flooding we had there had to do with the boiler that caused the most damage was the boiler that leaked, but not the flood itself. It's a map, and if you're in that line, you need flood insurance, and that's where we are. Because we've had 2 100-year floods in 12 years, so.
Yeah.
And there's a small part of the building itself that is inside that line. And it doesn't matter that that part of the building's never been damaged by anything. It's inside that line.
FEMA suggested we move the stream that's out back.
Yes, something that they're happy to
We
do.
laughed and said no.
They were running around the state for that.
Dave has this.
Dave? Did you want to talk, Dave?
He's working on it.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I just wanted to let you know my Zoom keeps dropping in and out, so I'm intermittently losing you both picture and word for what it's worth.
Yeah.
We'll try to hold on to you, Dave.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, so we're gonna move into old business. We have the budget on here. We've already addressed that.
At best.
Right.
Did it pass in enough time to be able to avoid the, like, taking the loan? Because isn't there like a 30-day?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually talked to the local town clerk about it. So I have to wait 30 days before I can submit it to the state, which in turn submits it to the tax department. And so that will be July 5th, which is probably a holiday, no one's around anyway.
Yeah.
But we also have to have the yield in order to do the tax rate. So, you know, even though those people that passed didn't have problems, but they did talk about sending out bills and then estimating capacity, and then there'd be a lot of work with towns, but then they'd have to resend out another bill. But we should know in the next.
That's the uncharted water part of not having the bill with the yield and it vetoed and needing to wait to see whether, but even without all of that, we can't make official requests until the 30 days have gone by.
Yeah, we can't submit to the state. I mean, I think it's gonna be how quickly the towns can turn around the information once they have it. So I will be bringing the hospital line of credit for the tax anticipation to your gym meetings. And we do that every year, it's tax anticipation, and if there's a delay, we have cash that we can use until we get that.
Yeah, it will be time to talk about the FY26 budget in about 2-3 months.
Okay, all right, so now we're gonna move into goals. So, on your agenda, there's the 5 goals that we've been working on. 2 of them have now been completed. We just need to insert a date, the actual hire date of Wayne into that. I don't know if we wanna use the date that he'd be starting. You have that date?
I can look it up.
What are you looking for?
Just the date, so we already hired the new superintendent.
Yeah.
I just wanna update it. It's not.
Well, I would do the, I guess when you sign the contract, so I think.
Yeah, I mean, just for when
See if I can
the
find
agenda's
it.
done. And then we'll do some work on the superintendent evaluation today. We can pull that up. The other 2, is revise and finalize the comprehensive 3-year board calendar. I think we can work on that again in this meeting, but then maybe discuss some of it at the retreat. And then the GM board, I can bring it back to the GM meeting and discuss if this is something that our board feels needs to be done at this point. And come back and address the board with that, if that needs to be one of our actual goals.
Can you, I'm sorry, I either missed some words or I'm not clear on what you just said about green, you were gonna.
So
what to Green Mountain?
so in the board goal here, it talks about the GM board will rebuild trust among the members through continue. So, there hasn't really been any GM discussion per se about that in quite some time. I will bring it back to the board, see what they want to do, and then I'll update this board so we can update this goal. So if you guys want, you could pull up got it, and is there a way to project it for them?
If you sign in to the Zoom meeting, then
Okay.
you can share your screen.
And then I can't tell them this where we left off.
I
We were
think I
kind of
know.
redlining.
I think I know. I thought we put a line on it too, but it's not there.
Huh?
Sorry, I had like 400 things open here.
It's only one email.
Yes.
I do,
We've got some asterisks under.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was our stop point.
Yeah,
under
that was what I
communications.
was looking for, but maybe I didn't
Yes.
scroll down far enough.
Okay,
it's right above operational management and leadership.
so we stopped there.
Yeah.
Okay. So once you guys can see it, we can do some work on that.
You want to move on to the next thing while I load it up?
So,
Well,
yeah, they're really, I mean, it's.
That's it, okay. I'm
Well, no, I
getting
mean,
there. I'm getting closer.
The all board, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about it, but as I shared with most people, Debbie Singheiser, who was going to facilitate for us from the VSBA, is not available. Jeannie Collins, who is a longtime superintendent within Vermont, most recently at Rutland Northeast Supervisory Union. She retired a couple of years ago. She does a lot of consulting work, and she has agreed to be the facilitator for this. So she will be meeting with the board chairs and Wayne and myself, talking about the agenda for the day. Okima was unable to accommodate us, so the location will be at the Green Mountain Library and Media Center because they have air conditioning. And some of our more centrally located school places do not. So that's what our plan is at the moment.
Sure, so you're in, okay, good.
Okay,
All
so we
right.
should start at operational management. And what we've been doing is just looking at the effective and going straight down that column and tweaking more for content and less for detail, I think we've been doing, right? So we'll keep doing it that way.
I think so.
So internal communications keeps staff informed of most important matters. Crickets.
Yeah,
Just reading.
I'm not understanding, like, what's the question or process
So what we've been
we're
doing
right now?
is going through the effective column and just, I've been reading them and people have been saying, yep, that sounds good, or no, we don't need to do that, or yes, but, or yes, and. So the first one we're looking at is just keeps staff informed of most important matters. Is that effective communication?
I think I wanna strike the word most, I mean,
Yeah.
staff should be informed of all important matters.
I mean, if it said most matters, I would strike one word or the other, right? Good there. Okay, so the next one is, again, under the management leadership, personnel matters. A system is used to address personnel matters with consistency, fairness, discretion, and imparity.
Yeah.
Sorry, impartiality. Again, I only have one eye.
Glasses.
I got new glasses, but I still only have one good eye.
I actually think for this one, highly effective is what we should consider the effective. Proactive people management and personnel policies routinely being discussed and promoted. I think that's a baseline for a organization of this size.
You want me to move that over?
Well, do you mean personnel policies being routinely discussed with personnel or just being discussed like within the policy?
I don't know what routinely discussed and
Yeah,
promoted.
that's
I'm thinking that's more like enforcement, like personnel policies are, and enforcement has,
Punitive side.
yeah, it does. But really what we're talking about is like, personnel policies are sort of consistently,
Applied.
yeah, or implement, or, yeah, promoted, within the organization. I mean, I don't even know, this topic is operational management and this subject is personnel matters. I'm finding, just because this is, my professional background, I find the way that this is discussed maybe a little bit, I think I would say, actually, I can, if you guys want to move on to the next one, I can come up with some, I can propose some new language there. While we're, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna, I'm just gonna highlight it because my brain
Yeah.
is needing that.
So moving on to supervision.
Okay, so that's the one Julie's working on, that's why it's highlighted. Yep, supervision and evaluation. A system is used to address supervision and evaluation with consistency, fairness, discretion, and partial. Supervision.
Actually, just like the highly effective, I'd
Yeah.
like to see, I mean, I think that would be better. As the effective.
So the distinction between personnel matters and supervision and evaluation is personnel matters is actually meant to be punitive or actions or something, whereas supervision and evaluation is more supportive development kind of?
So an evaluation system means that you are on a regular basis engaging in conversations that tell people whether they're meeting expectations or not. And providing some sort of, goals and then evaluation of those goals at the end of the year. There are personnel matters that arise over the course of the year that always involve supervision, but are not part of that yearly evaluative system, right? Somebody does something that they're not supposed to do, or they are accused of doing something that they're not supposed to do, or they might do something that is really wonderful and worthy of reward. Is there a system in place for handling a personnel matter that is outside of the regular supervision evaluation system?
By personnel management, we don't mean a catch-all like people leadership. Personnel matters here means performance management.
That's how I would read it, for handling personnel matters. I would read that as being somebody has said, I am unhappy with how something is happening, or someone has reported that somebody didn't do their job right, or that there's
Okay.
a wide variety of things that can come under a personnel matter umbrella. It might be something that we need to involve attorneys. It might be something we can handle ourselves. We have a variety of procedures in place for handling different types of personnel.
So I guess I would propose changing the title of personnel matters to performance management and accountability. Personnel is one of those words that's like 30 years old.
Absolutely. This document is based on documents that were based on documents that the VSBA has had kicking around for probably 10, 15 years.
Can we do personnel matters / performance management?
Sure, if that's what folks want to do. I don't know that personnel management alone captures what this one is about.
How about personal performance and management, personal performance pronouns? Why would you want to keep personal matters? And
It just sounded to me like Lauren thought it was appropriate, that's all I was.
It is just how we've referred to it. I don't have any issues with using performance management, that you could call it whatever you want to call it. I mean, we've got procedures in place to do this work. And if the performance management label feels like a better description, that sounds fine with me.
Okay,
I like performance management and just maybe not the accountability part. 'Cause I
Sure.
feel like that.
Yeah.
So maybe just performance management.
okay, so I
Sounds
put
good.
that on the one that Julie's working on, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then we're moving back to supervision and evaluation?
Well, was there something that you wanted to do in the effective column?
Yeah, I'm just writing
Still
something,
working that out?
yeah.
All right. All right, so
Okay,
yes.
so back to supervision and evaluation. We are back to, did you say, Adrian, that you thought we should also move the highly effective over?
Yeah, I think that sounds more appropriate for an effective.
Supervision and evaluation system is aligned with district vision and goals and implemented at all levels of the district. So we're gonna strike this.
Unless other people have.
No, it's actually what we currently are working on updating our supervision and evaluation instrument for our teachers in order to make it aligned with our vision and goals. Because when it's not, then you cannot effectively take action based on it. And we've had changes to our goals and vision over the last couple of years that our instrument is not up to date. So I agree that that move makes complete sense. I'm not sure what going above meeting expectation becomes.
Right, well, that's for another night, right? Another meeting. Delegation of duties. Delegates responsibility to staff within their abilities and then provides support to ensure their success.
The only question I have about that is, do teachers is there a scope? Like, abilities and scope, like can a teacher be
Yes.
outside of their scope, or you know what I mean, like if you asked someone to do something that was outside of their, I guess, licensure, or I don't know what your terms are in
So
education.
thinking about this in terms of the superintendent's evaluation, I've always read this as being the superintendent delegates central office responsibilities to staff, not so much to teachers in the building.
Okay,
That this is delegated, because the superintendent could decide that it is the superintendent's job to do all of the curriculum work, all of the technology work, all of the business office works, and then you would have the burnout in about a minute and a half. So all of those pieces under the superintendent's responsibility, a great many of them have to be delegated to other places so that it is manageable. I've never thought of this as being a
yeah, micromanagement.
delegate to a teacher.
Okay.
That's
Not
not,
micromanagement, okay.
I did not think about teacher, but I do also worry about, like, we don't want Cheryl making special ed decisions.
but
versus-
that's the point here, right? Within their abilities. And it shouldn't be within,
Well,
right?
I mean, I'm just thinking, maybe Cheryl has some experience in special ed, but that's also not in her job. I mean, I don't know, I don't, within their ability, or like, I feel like there's something like, I liked the word scope, but maybe that's not the right word. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
I mean, I take the word appropriately as given, right? Delegates responsibility appropriately to staff. It would not be appropriate to delegate special education to staff. To your business.
Okay, but the word appropriate isn't in here, right?
No, it's not, but
Okay.
like it said, I tend to take that as being we are assuming that we're going to act. But you could put that, if you want the specific language in there, you could certainly put it in. Within the scope of their duties or something.
So, I mean, and I'm just for instancing, like, Secretary A is not good at updating the website, but that's technically in their job description. So then does that become somebody else's, like, falls to somebody else's plate, and really they should learn how to update the website? That's where I was sort of thinking it.
I'd go back to looking at the first column here that says, doesn't delegate duties, maintains personal control over all district operations. This is a line that is, do you have a power mad superintendent? And in order for them to be in a proficient place, they have to delegate appropriately. And that's, and if you want to put more in about how you're defining that, I mean, I would think that if your superintendent is doing what you just described and saying, oh, you know, poor baby doesn't know how to do that, so we're gonna take that and give it to someone else. And that would be a discussion about, we're gonna change job descriptions, not that we're,
I guess I'm not even sure what this one means. Do we need it?
The delegation of duties?
Yeah.
Well, I like the idea of keeping someone from, kind of living in that micromanagement land. I'm pulling from my professional, like, abilities is not like, I'm able to do certain things in surgery, but it's outside of my scope. Like, that's what I mean. Like,
Scope
it's
sounds
like,
good.
but I don't know if there's an educational word that, certification, licensure, I don't know. But that was my only thought.
with,
If this has worked for you, I'm fine.
with this one, I particularly like the exceeding piece, which is we're trying to delegate responsibility that will help everybody to do their job better. Not just make it easier for the superintendent to do their job, but functions as a way to raise all the ships.
Would it be appropriate to say delegates responsibility to staff? Appropriately delegates responsibility to staff within their job description?
Well, I think scope says it too, so the job description will work.
Yeah, I think scope in place of abilities is a little more precise.
Delegates responsibility to staff within their scope. and then provide support to ensure success. I like that. Again, it's not necessarily wordsmith, but it's the intent is there. People online?
Absolutely. So,
Right?
Okay, are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Interpersonal relations, collaborates and builds relationships with staff and administrators in a consistent manner.
This is just to be effective. I'm thinking.
Yes, his hand raised.
What's that?
Effective manner.
In a, are you saying remove consistent and then put effective, or are you saying add effective?
I like just striking.
Just effective manner. There's too many words in a lot of these things.
All right, we did it.
Okay.
All right. Recruitment follows a formal recruitment process for each hiring opportunity.
So this one, I mean, I think it would be ridiculous to not have actively recruits the best
Yes.
staff.
Right.
I mean, like, that's just.
Yeah.
So
Right, so
just
get rid
bring
of
the
this
actively
and
over,
move
yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Back up, okay. So, and we don't want to change anything at this point in that. Visibility, visits buildings, classrooms as the time permits.
So Lauren, I actually think, what do you think about this? Because I don't think it's, I think it would be unfair to make it a priority item because that changes day to day, so.
well, regular visits to buildings and classrooms occur. I made it a point to schedule
So
weekly meetings.
You did, but that doesn't mean every superintendent will,
That's
right?
Well, that's why I think you want this in your evaluation piece.
Right.
Because it's important.
But can we, buildings, classrooms and events, like not, I think the superintendent shove goes above and beyond the school day.
I just don't like as time permits.
Right,
And I also
yeah.
don't want to lock them into as a priority because every day is different.
I mean, the next one up says regular visits, could we say regularly visits buildings, classrooms and events?
Yes, I like that.
Okay. And then get rid of as time permits. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Leave that
then,
in there, it'll never.
okay, and. All right, so then operational objectives. Consistently keep staff informed of operational objectives and their role in achieving objectives.
Sounds fine with me. Anyone else? Good, okay.
Yeah, everybody's happy? I can't see online, so.
Yeah.
Investigations and negotiations. Plans and directs investigations and negotiations such as.
Sorry,
Yeah,
can I go back to the operational objectives?
yeah,
I would like to insert, so consistently keep staff informed of operational objectives. Processes for achieving operational objectives and their role, or something like, because you could talk about the objectives, but if you don't have a process, like a plan for achieving the objective, I'm not sure how useful this one is.
Say it again, what you
So consistently keep staff informed of operational objectives. Or
Processes
maybe
to reach them?
yes, consistently keep staff informed of processes to achieve operational objectives and their role. Like something like that. Because what I get when I read this is that someone could satisfy this one by just informing someone of the objectives in their role, but if you don't create the process and the framework for, completing the task, then, it won't happen. So I think there should be something about process in this one.
Consistently keep staff informed of operational objectives.
There,
The process for achieving those objectives.
yes. Consistently keep staff informed of
Achieving.
operational objectives and their role in the work or something.
Achieving operational objectives.
And their roles and responsibilities in achieving the work or something.
Something close to that?
I don't
Okay.
lost track of the. Consistently keeps staff informed of operational objectives. Oh, no, I would move, I would say consistently keep staff informed of a process or.
So consistently keep staff informed of processes for achieving operational objectives.
And their roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
In the work, or,
So go back up, consistently keep staff informed of
yeah,
processes for achieving operational objectives and
their role. Their roles and responsibilities. Does that make more sense?
it does, and I'm just thinking, and there. Yes.
Again, I think we started with like mostly intent and wordsmithing we can do as, so are the ideas in there?
Because I think with objectives, you're really talking about, like, those are established at some mark in time. And so what you're talking about is the process toward achieving the objectives. That's not just something the superintendent does, that's a team effort. So you want to, I think if you're looking for accountability from the superintendent, you're looking at, is there a process in place to achieve whatever we said the objectives are? And do people know what they're supposed to do? To get it done.
Yeah, okay, all right. So investigations and negotiations. Plans and directs investigations and negotiations such as master agreements, mergers, and the sale of major assets with the approval of the board.
Investigations, is this internal investigations? Like personnel matters?
It can be that we do investigations into personnel matters, HHB, Title IX, and anytime there's any report of a problem.
Are those done internally or you hire a
Those
contractor?
are done internally.
Okay.
And would this be more in something like, I don't know, like a traffic study? I know you're not gonna do a traffic study, but that's all that's coming to my brain at the moment. Like,
So what this involves overall is investigations into some kind of personnel matter or some kind of action that has been brought against the school, which has as its first level our involvement before we wind up turning it over to other people. And then the other piece of this is negotiations, which is the master agreements. And the superintendent is involved in the process by which you negotiate your teacher master agreement and your two support staff unions with their master agreement. The superintendent is the one who takes the first steps in making all of those meetings happen. And then the board has its parties that come to the negotiation, along with whatever attorney that you're using. But the initial compact for making those things happen rests with your superintendent.
To me, investigations and negotiations are really two very separate things.
And you could separate, I mean, I basically read this as just being, these are matters in which you are going to be involved in something that requires decision-making around what potentially becomes a matter. And that can be true for your investigations, and is always true for your investigations. I mean, you could divide them up. I personally think this pretty well covers it. But if it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't matter that it makes sense to me. I'm gonna
What
be
are-
gone. You need it to make sense to you.
Are mergers in the sale of major assets a relevant thing in our district?
They have been, the merger was a
Few years
big
ago.
deal here for,
Okay,
right, and the sale of major assets, not currently, but again, with the merger, that was a big deal about, whatever about other pieces. Those specifics, it seem unlikely to happen again, but they were a big deal
Okay.
for this district.
It has been a
Dave?
Can't you say, put a period after negotiation, investigation, delete and substitute conduct? Plans and directs investigations, period. Conducts negotiations such as such and such.
Sure.
Yes?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
did it. All right, supervisory objectives.
Oh,
Is
wait,
this-
actually,
sorry,
no, I
is
need to
this-
go. Sorry.
is-
Go
What's
ahead.
that?
Is this the only field that talks about labor relations? Or is there another category on that? I don't remember
Instructional
talking about
leadership
that as
is
well.
next, and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of just making this about conducts negotiations, if this is meant to capture internal investigations and labor negotiations, I think we should maybe, instead of limiting ourselves to negotiations, capture proactive and productive labor relations, or, relationships with our labor. I mean, there's nothing about that in here, and I think that's, a decent part of the job. So I wonder if, instead of just limiting ourselves to negotiations, we should say, plans and directs investigation. If we want to keep it in one, that's fine, but maybe promotes positive or productive labor relations, including negotiations, conflict resolution.
My hesitation with it is, your role in doing this was to reduce this. Because what happened with this was that everybody went through, agreed with everything that was in here. This was the process that you were going to use. And then when you went to use it, it was too much, too long, too many words, and no one used it. So it wasn't used. No one, after initially approving it, no one ever was willing to look at it or use it again. So your plan in going through this was, your goal was to develop a simple and clear superintendent evaluation system. And it just feels to me as though this is becoming it's becoming not less than it was, but
Right.
more than it was. And which is not to say, Julie, that you're not right, that maybe these are pieces you want. I would encourage you, rather than trying to do it this way, which feels like the easiest way to do it line by line. I don't actually think that's what you want to do. I think you want a couple of people to go through and read the whole thing and come back to you with here is our 4-page suggestion for what it is that you are going to do, and then let the board decide whether or not that is comfortable for you. Because otherwise, what happens is what's happening. is that you look at each piece of it and decide that it doesn't fully capture all of the things that it might capture, because it doesn't. And lose track of, I don't remember whether there was another piece in here for labor relations or not. But I would struggle with the idea that you are currently creating a simple and clear evaluation system.
This is what's in place currently?
Yep. And it's never been used.
Oh, it's never been used?
The agreement was in 2020, when I came in, this was what we talked about. And the board looked at it at our summer retreat and decided that this was the evaluation system that they were going to use. And then when people looked at it, it felt so unwieldy that when it was shared with board members to go through and say whether they thought I was or was not doing these things. Now, to be fair, at the time, everybody thought everything was wonderful and they were struggling to come up with any complaints at all. So they didn't want to take the time to go through and do all of it. And the end result was that, so we didn't use it. So what the evaluation was, the board chair spoke with each of the two boards, asked for, what do you think Lauren's doing well? What do you think she isn't? And then they came and they brought me comments about that. So this was the system that we agreed to, and no one ever used it.
But for the past, so what you're saying is, for the past 3-4 years, your evaluation has been sort of a collection of feedback between both boards, and then that's been presented to you in an annual basis?
That happened once.
And then there hasn't been an evaluation since?
No.
Which was the discussion for, you need to change that. You need to have an evaluation system in place that your boards are comfortable using and will use, so that at the end of next year, you are giving your superintendent clear written evaluation based on a system that he was aware of when he started the job. You can't tell someone you're going to evaluate them based on a system that didn't exist when they started. So the goal here was that before July 1st happens, when Lane comes in, that you would have in place to share with him, or at least by July 12th, when you have your retreat, to share with him, this is how we're going to evaluate you. And that what you're putting in front of him is something that you all are actually comfortable using. So the goal here was to take this and turn it into something smaller and more manageable.
So I thank you for explaining that history. I didn't realize that was the context of this work. I am not sure if the board's goal here is to give effective and useful feedback to the superintendent about their performance and.
Oh, shoot. Sorry, I'm projecting.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing to project. I was gonna
That's
say,
why I
Patty,
Googled it.
wouldn't you like, I mean, there are other forms that are possible.
This is great. This is good.
I
What you
Googled
got,
it.
Kelly?
First hit, right? Y'all watched me. Sorry, I forgot I was projecting. But it's only 7 pages and, or sorry, 8 pages.
And I see a grid. So anyway, where I was going was that if feedback is most effective, in my opinion, when it's given in real time and it's frequent and simple. I don't think that I didn't realize that this was like a draft, or I thought this was what we were currently using. And yeah, I mean, it started like years ago, yeah. The organizational data on performance evaluations is definitely, years ago, we left behind the annual evaluation, which I refer to as the annual ambush. Because I don't think it's helpful to anybody. If you do something wrong, you should tell that person today. And not wait in 6 months when their annual evaluation happens to say, like, hey, 6 months ago, you should have done something differently. So I favor, like 3 open-ended questions, 3-4 times a year. It's basically a worksheet, what's going well, where should we be focusing more time, or where's the growth? And, how can we help you? In kind of the model of like the leader and the person that they're supervising. It's 3 questions, it's probably a 10-minute conversation, but it happens throughout the year often. And then you just have a record of all the times that you've talked about it. So like I think less reliant on like letter system, like ranking numbers system, more just to focus on open text questions where, we look at what the objectives are, what the goals are, and we make comments about the superintendent's progress toward the goals. And we have a short discussion about it once a quarter,
Maybe we could find a middle ground, because the people that are going to be evaluating the superintendent are not educators.
Right.
So like, we need to know
My point.
what what bars should be met. So maybe if we could find that happy medium.
And all of the things that you are describing are an excellent way of providing supervision. And in a contractual environment where decisions about employment are made by a board that changes presence generally in sometimes a week before the decisions are made, the absence of something fairly concrete for somebody to look at and be able to say, I know that this board thinks I'm doing it right, or I don't know that, can be troublesome. In terms of supervision and improving performance, everything you described is exactly what everybody wants. Certainly, a superintendent wants to hear from you when you think there's a problem immediately. I don't want you to wait 6 months to tell me. I want you to tell me right away, and to be going through and doing those kinds of things. I would push a little on, if you don't have something concrete that says you met our expectations for this year, that happens, that you can wind up in a difficult place if the board says we're not going to renew your contract.
Can I propose, and full disclosure, I'm probably not going to be there, but at the board retreat, I mean, I'll gladly Google some stuff and do some legwork ahead of time, and provide links or something for more simple forms, and that be one of the goals at the retreat, to create the document? Or is that not a good use of that time?
I think allotting a period of time would be fine. I mean, because it's going to be late. I'm sorry.
I think the difficulty is just what you've seen with this. The perception is it'll be something you can do quickly. And the reality is that to go through and look at 3 or 4 pieces, that's 2 hours. And then that's your whole period of time to set your goals for the year and talk with Lane about what goals you want him to have for the year and how you're going to evaluate him. My prediction would be that while you will be present, and hopefully you'll have a quorum that will be present, that doing this, you're going to get into it and then say, we're not going to be able to complete it today by 3 o'clock. We're going to have to schedule another meeting.
What's up next year's? What week is that?
August? Because your July meeting is July 12th. Which isn't to say you can't schedule other meetings. You can schedule another meeting to go through and do all of this. I love the idea of you're looking at all of these other pieces and finding one that is short, clear, straightforward. That was the goal. I love the idea of having a quarter, the idea with this, by the way, was that there was supposed to be a mid-year conversation. It was supposed to happen in January, in which the board would do essentially what talked about doing. And that turned into an attempt to have a conversation sometime in February, and then somewhere in March,
The
Joe and
timeline's
Paul
on page
had a
one.
conversation with me about something.
I have something here that
And Dave has his hand up.
I shared to my clients.
I can't, you're gonna. have to-
Dave has his hand up.
Whoever was first, yeah, Dave?
Yeah, I tend to agree with what Julie's saying. My other life, I was an HR director for Humana, and we end up being job evaluations and job descriptions are from the old ages, if you will. And I don't know why we can't adopt something like we have for the board. At the end of every meeting, we go through a little critique. And I'm not saying it has to be done every month, but we could evaluate the superintendent based on goals and/or I'm assuming, I hesitate to even say this, that there's a job description for the superintendent. So why wouldn't we have an evaluation that is bounced against the job description and in a very simple form? And once a month, once a quarter, say, okay, did the superintendent do X, Y, Z, just like we do for the board after every meeting. And then we have a running count of what the heck this person's done during the year, and they get evaluated accordingly.
Sounds great. The job description is this document.
Say that again?
This document is taken directly from the job description.
Well, it's too complicated.
I agree.
It needs to be, the KISS formula needs to be used.
So simplify it.
Yeah. As much as possible.
I agree.
Was there more, Scott, was there more that you wanted to say?
I agree with what Dave said on that. It needs to be simplified, and I like his idea of doing it, every month or quarter or whatever. I mean, it gives you a better description of what's going on and seeing if the superintendent is actually, stepping up and seeing that, they might be lacking in one area. You know what I mean?
So maybe we can find that middle
Yeah,
ground where we can be doing, I don't know, quarterly is ambitious, but maybe twice a year. But
And I can circulate a template that I routinely share with clients, and the final question, maybe to address Lauren's concern, is the person on track or off track? So you do have an opportunity to indicate, but the questions that precede it are, it's meant to be like a back and forth conversation. What has gone well? What do you think you could have done better? What are your upcoming goals? What professional development activities do you have planned? Any comments or feedback on your recent or upcoming work? And then is the employee on track or off track?
That sounds great.
Yeah,
so how are non-educators gonna know?
Right, that's,
That's where we're gonna run into.
I mean, I feel like I could sit here and tell you all the amazing things I'm doing, but that doesn't mean those are all, there's other opinions, there's other things, maybe I'm not perfectly reflective about my performance, maybe, there's other.
well, how would we have gotten information about this one? Because that's the same concern.
Right, I mean, I don't know, I'm just looking at this, obviously, I literally just Googled it,
We
right?
just
You
need to-
know that I didn't read it ahead of time. But I mean, it
Focus
seems
on
much more
objective
easy, and I'm also thinking about like what Dave just said, could we take and say, in October, we're going to look at human resource management and do a little reflection on that as a group, and then, maybe the assessment one comes, student growth and achievement, maybe we do that when do you get, Cognia scores back, we could plan it out part of our calendar so that we knew each month we were taking just these 5 questions, and then maybe instead of having comments, we could have, superintendent reflection, board Julie's questions, whatever, what are you doing well? What do you need help with? I don't know. I feel like it needs, I don't like the idea of completely open-ended, but I also agree that the monotony of that thing, you're right, it's never gonna get used and we aren't making it any smaller.
You need a framework of what your expectations are.
Right.
That's the point of the evaluation system. And the point is to avoid having a system that is, I'm going to tell you that I'm angry at the superintendent about something.
Yeah.
So I think the superintendent didn't do something that I don't like. So I'm going to say that they're doing a bad job. Based on what was the area, what was the problem, what did you tell the superintendent that you expected them to do? Did they do it or not do it? And if you don't have at the beginning of the year, these are the things we expect you to do, then it is hard for you to do that. Having said all of that, the job description is enormous, and people are not educators, but you're the boss of the superintendent. And if the superintendent isn't meeting the TRSU board's desires, then you move them along. But you have to have identified what you want before you make the statement that somebody isn't doing it. You have to tell them what it is you expect them to do. And that can't just be we'll decide, we know it when we see it. You have to have actually articulated it. And that's complicated and it's a nuisance and you should do it anyway.
So this seems really good to me in terms of the description of what needs to be done. In terms of actually providing evaluation and feedback, it seems far too detailed. So for example, having, and even the fact that there's, the 4 categories, which mostly repeats the same information over and over again, just kind of makes it seem huge. So having the 4 categories defined as having those different pieces under it, but then making a rating on, actually I think it's 6 categories of things like board and superintendent relations policy, having an actual statement about 6 things just seems much more doable.
I think somebody, maybe it was Dave, I think somebody suggested that at some point. Why, instead of having all of these detailed rubric pieces, don't we just have the main heading and all of that can exist as if you want further examples, but this is what we're looking at. And Scott had his hand up, and it's back down again.
I took it down. I was gonna say that what Kelly has here, I like a lot better because it's just you're Xing, proficient or whatever, and then you can have a little comment section at the bottom on what the board would agree or the majority of the board would agree that needs to be improved. You could write it down there. Superintendent could look at it and we could have a discussion about it or.
But certainly it's a much more manageable approach. You still have to look at it and make sure all of the things in it meet your expectations. Truthfully, whatever you put in there, as long as you've told your employee, this is what I expect you to do, so that he knows before the year starts and you're in agreement about it, it'll be good. And if you don't like it, you can change it, do something different next year.
Can you share the link to that, like,
Yes.
with the TRSU board? or
Yes,
send
can
it
I
to-
just,
Send it to me and send it
I had a
out.
thought. I mean, we could work on I don't know, like maybe whatever, however the process is that we decide to do it. I like the idea that there's a general statement, right? And then a few specifics. This one is a little bit longer, but like this one is just, 4 specific things. We could take a general statement from the category and pick 4. And instead of having the proficiency standard, have the checkbox system, and I think it would look less. And I don't know that we need each and every one of those 19 pages worth of categories if we have, the biggest things that we're actually aware of. I mean, there's day-to-day things that we don't know the details of every little thing Lauren does, and nor should we. But
Are you saying not to use the proficiency standards?
I'm saying I like this setup where there's a general statement, right? And then
No, I
a
think- I
few
like that.
objectives or more specific details versus having 19 pages where
absolutely.
this is what I call a proficiency standard. So here's the thing we want you to do. Are you 1, 2, 3, or 4 on it? Which is fine, but
But you're not
But
gonna
it's
do it,
19
it's too big,
pages.
you're not gonna use it.
Yeah, no way.
Use the one you're gonna use. The one you pulled up, it's much more manageable.
right, I mean, it literally was the first hit. I'm sure I
There are
could
plenty of them
find,
out there.
So do you want, okay, all right, so do we have a consensus that we are gonna utilize effectively what's on the screen right now? Is everyone in agreement with utilizing that setup?
I like that setup, but to sanitize it even more, make it, it's not unlike what we're gonna be using at the end of this meeting. You'll have the major categories, leadership, blah, 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 and those major categories, and then you have your pass, fail, or whatever. Just keep it as simple as you can. In fact, I don't know that pass, fail isn't a better system of at all.
Yeah, I just, like, I don't know enough about what was up on the screen that I can't actually read yet to say.
No, I'm just saying the structure, not the actual wording,
here's a
structure.
2-page one. I mean, I'm not
You're still,
pro any of these, I'm just saying, here's a few. I mean, I can throw these in here, I'm literally just clicking on stuff.
I just wanna, keep in mind that this is effectively the CEO of our organization.
Right.
I want a little bit more than a thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yes. I don't like this one just because I can't quickly look at it and see how it is.
I just like more description of, these are our expectations, this is what we really want. And then the actual evaluation piece has to be based on what we can have data on or what we can
It's,
reasonably know and not, yeah, I like her or not, or I like him.
that's what it boiled down, that is what it frequently boiled down to. And the previous superintendent had the experience of, there was no evaluation in place. Everything was great, up until it wasn't. And then there's a lot of, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. But there was no evaluation system in place. And that was an unhappy place to be, which is why when I came in, said you have to have something. We looked at multiple possibilities. This is the one that the VSBA had created in order to have something in place, up to the board what to do. And I think we're circling back around to you need something that you will use. And it's true, you'll use a 2-block thing that says yes or no. That's not going to do you much good when there is something particular that you are unhappy about, that you didn't tell the superintendent was an issue before you started, that you want to see these things happen. You have to do more than just the simplest thing.
Seems to me that if you don't tell the superintendent what's going on when it happens, then you eat it. It doesn't go against the superintendent.
And you don't want that, so
Okay,
don't do that.
so we.
should we stop sharing?
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, I went on a little, I don't know how to
So,
stop. I
yeah,
never
if you wanna
use it.
send that, then we can,
Can I just get out of the meeting? And then it'll stop sharing.
you stop sharing, because I
Yeah.
stopped you.
Okay.
so if, I'll send out that email, are you sending that to me?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll send that email out to everybody, and if you guys wanna respond back on which one you prefer, I can kind of put it out there, and then maybe, I mean, I like the one that had like the objective and then a couple highlights.
I like that first one. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the first hit probably for a reason, right? Lots of people are liking that one. I liked that one the best on a quick cursory glance, and it would probably be easy to adapt what we have
into that.
to that system. I mean, I saw reference to certain test scores or an acronym that I didn't recognize, I think we would substitute. We call it Cognia. What do you guys call it? It's the same thing, but
TTCAP,
yeah, right. We just call it Cognia. I don't know. Actually, the kids
because
call it
that's the
a lot.
company that is administering the test.
So do we want to maintain the 6 standards that we have here? So it's on the back of page 1. Or do we, or any of these that, can any of these be combined, to shorten it down a little bit? So maybe we have 4 or 5 instead of 6. And then once we decide on that, then we can together, swap out, goals, words, make things appropriate for this TRSU. And then
To me, what would work really well is something like a 3-page description of what we want our superintendent to be doing. And then a 2-page evaluation. And these 6 categories or evaluation areas seem really good to me. But it's also the case that if within a category, if someone is outstanding on some of the pieces and not doing some of the others, communicating that would be good. But that, to me, would still be good performance, unless we're saying there's pieces that, except for pieces we are identifying as this absolutely has to be done.
If we were to use the first one, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 or 6 categories. And we have 6 categories. So looky here, they already equal, right? And then we could pick what the most, I think our effective column could still be those objectives, but we would just need to look at, and I lost it because I've got 75 tabs open. Instead of board and superintendent relationships, we could pick information, input and feedback, and progress toward goals as our priorities. Like maybe these are all the things you have to do, and these are our priorities, and we pick those 3. And we say we're never gonna do more than 4, but we can basically keep the language we've already worked on and just pop those in as the smaller tidbits.
would you be willing to work on that for the next meeting?
After I get my English license, yes. Before that, no. I would love to do it. I really truly would love to do it, but I my plate is too full right now and I have to learn to say no.
Okay.
And so I just did.
All right, okay, well then I guess let's send out those, you're gonna send an email
Yeah,
to
I
me,
did.
I'll send it out to
Yeah.
everybody else. If we can all review that and then, if people can take a little bit of time and maybe mock it up a little bit and then bring it back to the August meeting. We just have to have something ready by then. I would say by the start of the school
If
year.
we're waiting till August, I can
We don't have
probably
a
do
choice
something.
now.
Right,
If
yeah.
we don't have this in place, then we've got the retreat. If we're not
Right.
gonna work on it at the retreat, then it's the August meeting that we do this and then
I can work on something between now and August because my thing needs to be done by June 30th.
Scott?
So how are we gonna, timing wise, I know it's early because we got to get the form made, or the evaluation, but are we gonna do it every meeting? Are we gonna do it every other meeting? We're looking to get as much information as we can. Basically, it's like grading students, but grading the superintendent on how they're doing. So is it gonna be, we're gonna spend an hour and a half in a meeting grading every month, or what are we gonna do?
Year and annual.
Yeah. I think that the contract said at least once a year, so it could be more.
Doing it twice a year is, and I applaud the desire to do it often. And I think that you will feel rapidly overwhelmed by it, and you will wind up giving it, doing this, and that is not useful feedback.
And
Well, if
now,
we're using an 8-page form, I agree. Yeah.
what's that?
If we're gonna use a, 7 or 8 page form, then I think that's true.
The other thing is that I understand your timing now, but part of what you're going to spend that afternoon of July 12th doing is setting your goals for the board goal for the year and the superintendent's goals for the year. And it's hard to set your superintendent's goals for the year if you're not ready to be clear with him about what your expectations are.
And then our only other option, just.
I don't think you need to have the whole thing in place to do
Yeah.
that. You do need to have some consensus about what you want him to be working on.
I'm not sure that you need the evaluation. The evaluation doesn't change what the goals are. The goals are the goals and the evaluation is how effective are you at meeting those goals. So I'm not sure that we need to have like the actual
No,
instrument for evaluation decided on. There's an expectation that there will be an evaluation, at least one. I'm not sure that I feel strongly that this needs to be finalized, you know.
I didn't mean to suggest that. I do think you have to have some consensus around at least the areas in which you are looking for. You don't have to finalize the document. You're not gonna have it. But some consensus about what you are looking for. You're gonna have a dialogue with him. He's gonna tell you what he thinks his goals for the year should be. And you're gonna tell him whether you agree or disagree with those. But I would think that you'd be looking at these different areas, even if you have not decided exactly how you're evaluating.
So I'm willing to draft something next week that I can send to you and then you can send to other people if you think it's.
It's fine, whoever wants to work on it, that's fine.
Could we do something where, you know, we agree on what the evaluation sheet is, but we send it through email to all of us, we all fill it out. If a majority of people are saying there's an issue with whatever, speaking to employees or something, then we have a meeting on it.
I think that's an open meeting problem.
I don't know. Are you talking about the evaluation process or creating a document?
Yeah, like instead of doing an evaluation every month or every whatever, in public meeting form and going for hours and hours trying to figure out, you know, half the board could say the superintendent's doing great, half the board could say they're doing horrible, which then that means we have to have a meeting about it. But couldn't we do it through email to us individually? Fill it out like, hey, check this box, they're doing good on each item. And then, you know, they get sent back to the chair or whatever and go through and see if there's an issue with, you know, certain line items.
I don't know if we can, because it looks like a lot of this is going to be conducted in executive session, and if we do anything on email, it becomes public record.
Okay.
We can't conduct business
Yeah.
over email.
Well, we can't have meetings over email, but I think personnel issues, it's all public record, and I think that we would get into some really hot water.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, so Lisa, if you're gonna draft up something, can we just agree at least on what kind of format we're looking for? Are we looking for that one that we first saw? Are we looking for, Lisa suggested a 3-page description and a 2-page eval? Can we at least have a format so that she can mock it up? What are your thoughts on format?
I like it. That's just who I am. I'm a bullet girl. I'm not gonna read something if it's full of paragraphs. I'm a 6th grader with ADD. Literally.
I like what Kelly put up for the first one.
Jeff, Dave, thoughts?
Which first one are we talking about? The one that we were
And wasn't it?
debating, agonizing over correcting word by word, or the next one?
No, the
It's 8 pages.
it was 8 pages.
The one I
It said
Googled.
Distinction, proficient, I couldn't, I
And
can't.
this is-
The simplest one you have is the one I'm for.
Just started.
Okay,
Fantastic. Yeah, so something like a 6-page that is describing each of these major areas and has a checklist underneath it, one for each page.
and where are you gonna pull the description from this?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah, that'd be fine. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes.
Start.
All right, and then it will be sent out, just if you're gonna respond, only respond to me, so we don't have a meeting.
If you do that, that is something on the July 12th. That if you have something to work with that is smaller, you conceivably could come to look at it and limit yourself. If you come to agreement within half an hour of it, great. And if you don't, you'll schedule it for August.
Okay.
Should be personal.
Okay, does that sound good to everybody?
No, it's Lisa Sanders, that T right here.
Alright, never mind, alright, I'm gonna do this after, because I'm gonna end up getting it to the wrong
We're gonna
person.
you with it, there's no you.
Alright.
Okay, we good? Good, everybody? Any more on this? Excellent. All right, so, and we already did, so there are no second reads or adoptions. We've already discussed the July all board retreat on the 12th at GM. We do have a first read. Everybody have an opportunity to look at it? Any thoughts? No? Okay, and it'll be coming back, so if you have more thoughts, we can talk about it at the next meeting. No policies were adopted. Second public comment, anybody? Going once, okay, no public comment. All right, so our next meeting, will be the all board retreat on the 12th. And that's on the agenda, it says TBD, but it'll be at GM. And then our next regular meeting, TRSU meeting, will be the 1st of August, and that will happen at Ludlow Elementary and on Zoom. And now we are at our board self-evaluation. So board members are given and have read agenda and background materials prior to the meeting.
Yep.
Yes? Good,
Yes.
okay. Board members are respectful of each other, the public and the administration.
Always.
Board members handled conflict openly and constructively.
Yep.
Good job. Okay. Board members focus on the role and responsibility of the board.
Yes.
All right. And board members act as a team once a decision has been made and work collaboratively throughout the decision making.
We try.
I think we did good. All right, so,
And I maintain that we could do something similar to that for the superintendent's eval.
I second.
all right,
Really disagree.
motion to adjourn?
So made.
Moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned at 7:37.